Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. And welcome back if you have. My intention is unity, oneness, the highest levels of love light. So I'm just going to kind of go into, I had so much that I wanted to share. And honestly, I don't know where to begin. So let's start off first by memories. This week, I've had memories come back in dream time. So we'll start with that, and then I'm going to work into some basic things. We're just going to go galactic for a minute. Also, I'm going to talk about patterns. So we'll start with that, and then I might just go into a little flow. So some of the things are coming up for us that we thought we had already worked through. And I talked about this in a previous video, so I won't go into too much detail in this. Things are showing up for us again in relationships, in the physical, whether it be physical symptoms or particular patterns, thought patterns, subject matter. And we think, well, when are we going to be done with this? I thought I had already worked through it. The answer that I always give when somebody asks me that, especially about the physical things, are, it'll be done when it's done. I know it's not the answer that we necessarily always want to hear, but I can speak from my own experience, which I have been starting to share some of the things that I've gone through. And what I went through 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago, physically, where I was physically nauseous and sick, and like I said, I won't go into all of the details again. You can go back and watch the share I talked about on our journey, sharing our journey, physical symptoms, is that I now recognize, as I go through some of the similar things I went through then, I find myself experiencing them in a completely different way than I experienced them 4 years ago. For what the easiest reason I can say in common sense answer is because I'm a completely different person than I was 4 years ago. There's things that are different about me. And every time I experience, and I'm going to start with the physical, but you can also fill in the blanks and talk about emotional relationships, situations with work, family. And now when I'm experiencing some of these things, I realize them, I see them, I go through them from a different perspective. And this allows me to see what's happening in my body, how I'm reacting to what's happening, fill in the blanks, why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling, the fact that I'm feeling completely different about it than I did back then. I could go on and on. I'm able to see it, experience it from a completely different angle. I've talked about before in my previous video how it allows us to integrate it a lot faster. For me, it allows me to see things and go, oh, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective before. Oh, well, that's interesting. This isn't something I've experienced before. I'm experiencing it slightly different this time. What can this teach me? What does this have to show me? This is a great opportunity for me just to relax. This is a great opportunity for me to read a book that I would never have noticed was something that caught my eye, because it never would have caught my eye the last time I went through this. I have friends now that I didn't have 4 years ago that can assist me on this journey, or I don't have the same friends that I had then as I go through this, which makes me realize that I need to reach out to somebody else who's going through maybe something similar, or maybe we now recognize that it's time to go into integration, which means being by ourselves, taking a break. It's different for everyone, and that's my point. It's even different for myself, who's gone through it over and over and over again in a multitude of ways. what happens is we begin to experience our experiences as multidimensional beings, or we begin to experience our experiences, conversations, physical symptoms, aha moments, emotions, realizations from a wider angle, a different angle, zoomed in, zoomed out, above, below, within, so without. So all of it becomes more navigable because we're navigating a completely different ship. We're navigating different waters because we're in a completely different time zone, timeline, reality system than we were the previous time that we went through this. For those of you who are just now beginning to experience these things, it's a process. You may never experience what I'm talking about, but part of the process is about us not just learning, but journeying. This is part of it. And from my perspective, it isn't always sunshine and rainbows. However, recognizing where we're at and honoring it can assist us in finding neutrality. We don't always have to be up here. Like, yay, I'm getting physical symptoms and I feel awful, but I'm just fine. I am a spiritual warrior, right? Been there, done that. And some of us are still doing that. It's okay not to be there because there's going to come lows. So it's finding that balance, which is kind of the theme from my perspective, ongoing forever, but especially for this year of 2020. Finding neutrality. Being able to see things from a broader perspective, being able to acknowledge where we're at and acknowledge and respect where we're at and where everybody else is as well. And if we can find that, is it equanimity? I was going to say equality. It is kind of an equal, the scales, right? Balancing those scales and recognizing when we're really, really, really high, that it's okay that we can find a way to kind of balance that energy out too. Because that's another theme I wanted to bring up, especially if someone's very sensitive to all of the energies coming in. We can get into that really, really high and then we crash. It's like eating a bunch of sugar. You know, I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew, like drinking a whole liter of Mountain Dew, feeling like you can climb Mount Everest and then, not halfway up you're asleep, but not even quite that far. It can literally snap you out of it, what we're experiencing, immediately like a yo-yo. But part of the key is balancing that out so we're not a yo-yo. Allowing ourselves to fluctuate and recognize when we're in flux, when we're in a high and we're in a low, honoring that and finding a way to balance out and ride that wave, right? So I just had a vision of somebody going through the barrel, not up and over the barrel, right? Because then we're going to wipe out. But then the people that don't even paddle out to ride the wave are missing out on the journey and the opportunity. So I'm seeing why that's being shown to me. So other things that have been shown to me this week are also memories are coming up for me of my past lifetimes or parallel lifetimes. And I've been guided to share for myself. Sometimes we have this concept, this idea, that in order to remember our lineage from, let's go galactic for a minute. Well, let's even just talk about other lifetimes on this earth. If that's your cup of tea, right? It's my cup of tea. What happens is sometimes we think that it has to be like this magical moment where you meet your higher self and they come down out of the clouds and reach out their hand, and then we go off into this space of complete and total bliss. And while that does happen, and it can happen, it's not necessarily something that's always going to happen. And I'm being guided to talk about this because this leads me back to the yo-yo. Sometimes we have these very mystical experiences and we have these expectations that that's how it's always going to happen, or someone else has that experience, and so that's what we wait for. We're waiting for that moment. And I'm here to share from my own personal journey that sometimes when we're really in our, what we might perceive as our low, is when the mystical experiences happen. It isn't always going to be when we're on this spiritual warrior and everything's sunshine and rainbows. That can sometimes be true. We may be in a very high vibration, and it might be that high that we're riding. But sometimes that is also a form of resistance. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's been referred to as spiritual bypassing. It doesn't mean that you can't be positive or you shouldn't be in sunshine and rainbows, but there are going to be moments as a human being that it's going to feel sticky, and it could feel awkward, and it could feel uncomfortable. And that's part of that experience is navigating that in the most neutral way that we can in that moment. So what I'm explaining is that sometimes that forcing ourselves to be in that high doesn't allow us to fully get all of the experience out of our journey that we can for expansion. So sometimes the mystical is about recognizing that I need help, or that I just need to take a day and sleep and not force myself to go out and, do that 10-mile hike, because being in nature is the only way to be. There is that balance. For some people, yes, that really works 99% of the time, but sometimes they need that shut-eye to just close the curtains, pull the blankets over their head, and just get a good night's sleep in. And when we allow that to happen, not only are we recognizing and honoring our bodies and where it is, we're also recognizing that might give us that opportunity to get our downloads and activations in dream time, right? And vice versa, getting out of bed, brushing our teeth, getting up, going out paddling to get that wave, to at least get back up on our feet again and start to feel what it feels like to maybe find that equilibrium, equanimity. Sometimes I play with words way too much. I forget what the original word was, but so having said that, the waves and finding that balance, am I going to ride a longboard today? Am I going to do a short board? Or am I just going to sit and paddle in on a boogie board? It doesn't have to be the same type of wave, same vehicle, the same way we ride it every single day. Every moment is different. Every wave is different. The weather is different. Okay, that's a whole other video. So back to this, finding that balance. It might be that our body is telling us to move. Our body is telling us to change our diet. And so if we are in a constant state of high, we may not recognize that. We are going to crash if we don't drink some water and get some sleep. Vice versa. We're never going to find our activations or be able to integrate what it is that's being offered to us, because both of those are, I don't know if resistance is the right word, but both of those are riding a certain wave that's up here or down here, and it doesn't allow us to find that balance that's right in the middle, or at least somewhat balanced. Okay. On that note, some of the other things that have come up as topics are, that was a lot of information. Okay, I wanted to talk about the memories coming in. So I have, so I experience, and this is something if I get asked, how do I connect with my guides? How do I remember my previous lifetimes? And I can give, it's different for everybody. Obviously, I'll do a separate video on that maybe and just talk a little bit about some of the ways that I share with others how to get there. But realistically, from my own journey, I did everything. And I wasn't recognizing that my guides were already talking to me, with me. So I recognized as I remembered this week memories that I'd had from other lifetimes, that's what was going on. When I first started having these memories, well, who knows how long ago, maybe when I was a kid, I think it started. But we'll just use 2012 as a good timeline, because that's when a lot of things happened for me personally, 2010 through 2012 and so on. I was in such a place of fear and confusion about what was going on in my body and my relationships and where I was at in my life that it was really challenging for me to process the activations I was having, the memories I was having, the messages I was getting. And so if I can share one large, obviously I am sharing with you guys, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this video. One from myself tool is again honoring where we're at. It isn't about just take a bath, put some salt in it, use your crystals, lay outside, set your intention before you go to sleep to remember your dreams. And if you do remember your dreams, appreciate that, write them down, start a dream journal, because oftentimes we think our dreams are not important or relevant. And then one of my girlfriends from my dream chat will go, hey, you dreamed about your Merkaba. And I'm like, that's what that car represented. Sometimes it's helpful to go back and look at them. I had dreams that were coming true. I had dreams 3 years ago that came true this year. And I didn't remember until I went back and looked at my journal and went, I dreamed about that. And this leads me back to the mystical, the magic, all of that. If I hadn't followed some of those simple steps, keep it simple, star seeds, right? Little steps, that's not something I would have even noticed, right? Or integrated. And this is more of a message for those that wish to do it consciously. Like, I want to know what I'm speaking. Some people don't care and they just want to be able to just integrate. And in that case, go outside, go for a walk, breathe, do some yoga, self-care. It's that simple. Some people don't need to write it down and analyze, but for some people, that's part of the journey and it makes it fun. And that's how I was. So that's why I'm sharing this. So I journaled. And this week I had memories come through of relationships I'd had with Arcturians. I had memories of my connection with Andromeda. I had memories and about places on Earth, geometries. And this comes through for me sometimes walking my dog. Sometimes I'll connect with crystal children, just sitting. Sometimes I can watch TV and I'll have an activation or a memory. When I was in a place of fear, it was primarily triggers, by the way. So that's something to be aware of as well. The more we stay balanced, the less we are triggered by things and the less in fear, the fear that we experience, right? The more we're able to integrate. And it isn't about ignoring fear. As a reminder, it's about recognizing when that is something that we're feeling and we're allowing to pull us into a different space than what it is that could really serve us. Sometimes that fear does serve us to show us what it is that we're avoiding or bypassing or wallowing in. You know, we could go all different angles there. So for myself, it was a reminder to get back to the basics, get back with the smoothies, get back with the meditation. Not to say that I don't do it. I was guided to do it more. So I want to share that. And this is coming from someone, I don't do it all. You know, if you're sitting and meditating all day long, then it may be different for you. It might be that you are being guided to just go to the mall with some friends and do some 3D stuff for a minute so that you can bring into their reality or your own linear reality what you've been digesting in meditation, right? While you've been over there levitating, bringing it in for this other, to anchor it into this timeline, right? For an example, and I'm using old terms like timelines in 3D. That's obviously a linear representation. So for myself, I meditate, and I walk and I exercise to some extent, right? But I wasn't really making it an important part of my day. I was focusing a lot on others. I was focusing a lot on my healing work. I was focusing a lot more on doing writings and readings for others. And then I was guided to come back in and just play. And that is play for me. But balance it out with personal play. You know, go and sit in the sun and go for a swim. Go to the mountains and go for a hike. Put your ankles in the stream. Because in doing that, we're connecting with nature. We're connecting with this higher aspect of ourselves. We're connecting with our guides. And sometimes we can get so locked into a habit that it can be pushed, not even realize that we're then, because we're so ingrained in that, we're resisting other things that can show up for us when we do step outside and have that conversation with someone. And then we're able to share what we learned in meditation. Or vice versa. We stop hanging out with everybody else and we take time to go inside so that we can integrate these conversations and then integrate conversations that our higher self is trying to have with us rather than what everybody else is telling us. So you could go either direction with this, and I hope this makes sense. So there's so much more I have to share, but this is what I've been just seeing and feeling in my own experience, and also in, like I said, sessions, conversations, everything, in interacting and intermingling with everybody. So there was more, but I'm going to end on this note. Try to keep this a little bit shorter than some of my old videos. I'll be doing some more videos again on the layers of awakening. I know I've been talking about that for a while. And ultimately, it's all about self-care, guys. Care for what we need. Take care of ourselves. And don't be so hard on ourselves. So many times people say to me, well, I don't know that I'm good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not doing enough. And again, I'm going to do a video just on that. That'll be another video because I want to delve into that a little deeper. I think I did a little bit on the video where my sound was off, and I apologize about that sound. But in love and light, guys, so much love. Namaste.